All right. Welcome to another great episode of Framing New Heights. My name is Michael Hicks. We're host with the most today. Today I've got a unique podcast, but before we get into the podcast, I would like to give you a word from our sponsors. Unlock your true full potential with Live to Thrive Life Coaching. Are you ready to transform your life just one step at a time? Well, at Live to Thrive, we believe in the power of small, consistent improvements. Our unique framework focuses on becoming 1% better in mind, body, and soul every single day. What do we offer? We offer the mind. It develops a growth mindset, enhances your mental clarity, and conquer challenges with confidence. And also body. What do? You'll get 3 published ebooks sent to your email, as well as workouts sent to your phone or email. It'll embrace healthier lifestyle, boost your energy levels, and achieve those fitness goals that you have been desiring. Also, discover your purpose, which I call soul. Cultivate inner peace and live a fulfilling, balanced life. As a dedicated life coach of nearly 25 years, I will guide you on becoming the best version of yourself through overcoming obstacles and reaching for those new heights. Together, we'll create a customized plan tailored to your unique needs and aspirations. So join Live to Thrive today and start living your best purposeful life. For more information or to apply for that free consultation, you can go to www.livetothrive.com, or you can check the bio out on this podcast. Here's our next sponsor. Unlock better sleep and pain relief with CBD oil. And guess what? It's Amish tested. Are you struggling with sleepless nights and consistent aches and pains? Well, guess what? This premium CBD oil is tested and trusted by the Amish community as a solution for natural relief and restful nights. Special offer for Framing New Heights listeners only for a limited time. And I say this every single time when I say this ad, it's still going well. At checkout, you get 50% off by just putting in the code New Heights, and that's all cap locks. Why choose CBD oil? Well, like I said earlier, it's Amish tested, proven quality with effectiveness. Better sleep, say goodbye to restless nights, and hello to peaceful slumber. Pain relief, soothe aches and pains naturally and effectively. So don't miss out. Go to www.envitamins.com and use promo code New Heights at checkout to claim your 50% discount. Join the Framing New Heights community and start living a pain-free and well-rested today. So today's going to be a little bit interesting podcast, y'all. We're going to have a narrator, and I will bring her on right now. Her name is Amber Dobson, and today's a unique story. It's my story, and it's part 2. Amber, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello. Welcome. So, like Michael said in an earlier episode, which was episode 21, the story of Michael Hicks, in case any of you want to go back and listen. He does talk about his life story, but this is what I would call the quote unquote overview, because in today's episode, we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to ask you to get a little more vulnerable and give the people this story part 2. I'm excited for this as your girlfriend. I always tell people to know Michael is to love Michael. And I hope after listening that you all feel the same way too. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right.
So in your life story, you detail many pivotal moments.
Yeah.
But what was the one most defining moment that changed everything?
Yeah, that's a excellent question. We're going deep right away, y'all. And I guess this is a vulnerable podcast with me today, because it's really me putting my stuff out there to let everybody know who you're getting and what I'm about. Not only as a life coach, but I've witnessed and experienced so much traumatic events, and I've learned through so much of it. I think one of the most pivotal things, and I talk about this in my first interview about me, is how can I say this? I was an advocate a long time teacher, and I took a group of boys out on a boat. And this was after a little boot camp for adolescents, and Channel 4 News was going to be there, and it was really good publicity for the starting of my business. And we get on the boat, and it's a windy day. The sun's not out. It's a little dreary out. And we get on the boat, and one of the boys, his name was Darius, he says, "I can swim like Michael Phelps." And while he's saying this, he has his socks on, and he's taking his shirt off, and all the boys are laughing and giggling, just like teenagers do. And these are roughly the ages of 12 to 14-year-old kids who I just visited, or had one of them with me. I think it was in November. We had
that. They came to visit and have dinner.
They came to visit and had dinner. Well, anyway, I used to get really emotional sharing this story, and like tear-jerking emotional. Well, one of the boys, his name was Darius, decided to jump in the water. And as he jumped into the water, he came up panicking. And all the boys are laughing and think it was funny. Thought he was joking around, and I knew at that point he wasn't joking around. So, as any person would do, I would imagine in this situation, and I jump in the boat. I just jump, and I jump out of the boat. I don't grab anything. I just jump to go save him. The boat wasn't anchored that day, and like I said, it was a really windy day. And as I grab him, we're bobbing up and down. I'm visualizing, and I'm seeing the boat just go off in the distance. It's just going further and further away. And I'm not a very good swimmer. I could swim, but I'm not a very good swimmer. As I see that happening, I remember getting pulled down, swallowing water, and then like it just kind of like blacked out. And then the next thing I know is I'm getting pulled up by a fisherman, what I've been told, right? And then I remember them taking me to a dock. And then it was literally like a movie where I literally was laying on my back, like water was just coming out. That day, my life was saved. I had this distinct look about me. I had the frosted tips hair, the in sync at that time, Back Boys, or what was it, Backstreet Boys look.
Yeah.
Very clean cut. That was the side tangent. That was one of the main reasons why I grew my hair, because I didn't want to have that old image of me anymore. I felt that was, so I started growing my hair. But I remember that was one of the biggest turning points for me, because I contemplated even being around. I contemplated taking my life. I remember distinctly like crying so hard that.
Oh, you didn't say what happened to Darius.
Darius had drowned. Yeah, Darius had drowned. There was a point that I had to hire a criminal attorney to make an announcement on national TV. Well, I should say local TV. That soon then dissipated and was then put through legalities in, we settled in a different manner. So
were you still teaching?
I was still teaching at that time, and God rest her soul, she's no longer on this planet, but Barbara Horton was her name, and she worked at Darrell and Hines Preparatory Academy, which was one of my first schools. I was at. It was 9 years. I put a lot of sweat and tears in that school and became Educator of the Year one year, and she was just one of the most. She was like the mama bear of everybody, like just a beautiful soul. At one point, she was superintendent of Milwaukee Public Schools, assistant superintendent. A gentleman I think she was with just recently had passed. She had said to me, "You need to get a criminal attorney," and I did. I wasn't found guilty of that, but it did get settled through another variation. I forgot the term of what it's called. Civil court.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really one of the biggest changing monumental moments for me, because I was living a life very fast, full of hustle, kind of living two lives.
Describe that.
I don't know much I want to describe, because I'm probably going to detail this in my book that I'm going to read, but I'll describe a little bit of it to a general perspective. It's a tale of two lives, doing stuff on the weekends I probably shouldn't have been doing to earn some cash, nothing illegal. And then I'll just say this, I was doing some modeling and making an extensive amount of cash, driving a BMW as a teacher. Probably at that time, which was probably almost 20 years ago now, like a $100,000 vehicle I had. That's kind of weirded out, right? So I was living, I could tell at that moment in time, I was living really two stories, two lives, right? I did the 9-to-5 job, and then I would do this other gig and make an extraordinary amount of money on cash, and kind of live the fast lane for such an amount of time, and kind of really neglected what my purpose and calling was in life. And during that time, I have to say, I went back to my roots. It was a turning point for me, because I went back and I talked to my pastor about it, and he told me this will always be a thorn in my side. He said to me, this was a pastor that I grew up with in middle school, and then having confirmation with Pastor Kretschmeyer. If you're listening, shout out to you. He said this would always be a thorn on my side. I can either do something positive about it, or I can do something negative about it. I remember distinctively reading the Bible, going back to my roots, being prayerful. I got this outpour of, I didn't know what my purpose was. I thought I did. You know, I had this image to uphold. I could literally walk, and I'm not being arrogant when I say this, but I could walk into a room and people would turn their heads. Mm-hmm. I didn't want that anymore. I just wanted to, like, almost be a wholesome, better person. And through that, I think my relationship became closer to Jesus Christ. I was part of a church, St. Paul's Lutheran in Grafton, Wisconsin, where I was on the board. And I ended up being part of the financial committee, knowing how much pastors were getting paid, knowing how much teachers were getting paid. So my way of life really drastically changed from that moment. And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I think that's why, everybody always says, if for those of you that are listening to this podcast, I was empty for a long time. I was empty. I didn't have direction. I didn't have clarity. I didn't have focus. I had ambition, but ambition in the wrong things. And now with my Live to Thrive agency, I'm able to be the person that I needed when I didn't have anybody, except if it wasn't for my pastor. And there was a book that I picked up, and I actually share this in my Live to Thrive formula. It's called Purpose Driven Life. And it gave me a direction on where I needed to be and who I needed to be and why God loves us for who we are and what we do with our lives.
So I'm going to go, I have a script, but I'm going to go off because
Okay.
this is kind of guiding me towards that question. So, and for those listening, I've heard this story many times, and it still is just so tragic and difficult to hear. But you talk about how, and you've talked to me about how during the aftermath of all of that, you were alone and you had your pastor and you had this book, and there were times where you wanted to end your own life.
Yeah.
So the question is there a time you felt like giving up?
Yeah.
I'm sure that was one of them.
Yeah.
But outside of the book and the pastor, what made you not?
Well, the community. I get
Friends?
a little emotional. Community, friends. I had so many people reach out to me that I never even heard of, that were part of my life history, that said, we're praying for you. We believe in you. You'll be okay. Like a support system. I had and I think as I reflect and I look back, it's because of what I gave back. I didn't have a father growing up. I came from poverty, Sheboygan, Wisconsin, on welfare. Stepdad had an eighth grade education. Mom and dad physically fought. If I wasn't involved with the teachers in my Lutheran schools, from St. Paul's Lutheran in Sheboygan to Sheboygan, then getting an athletic scholarship in sports and playing every sport imaginable. If it wasn't for that avenue, man, I think I would have, I don't know. I don't know where I'd be. And so going to answer your question, community, I was, from past former teachers to friends, to colleagues, to students, to letters, to emails, to text. It was unbelievable. And I know some of us that are maybe listening don't ever have that opportunity, and we just always kind of feel alone. I know that feeling, y'all. I know where you've gone. I know the process. I know how to get you out of it. So if you're just stumbling on this podcast today, reach out to me. You can email us at framingnewheights@gmail.com, or you can go on my socials, or you can go on the website and just reach out. You don't have to live like that at all.
So, I mean, I think you're right. Relationships are a key to a long life. That is proven in science. But let's kind of shift here.
Okay.
What's one of the hardest lessons that you've learned about yourself? And how did it affect your professional or your personal growth?
The hardest lesson that I had to overcome is not having a father and not knowing how to be in a proper relationship.
Huh.
And I have failed miserably in so many relationships where I've had good women in my life, but I was that dude. I always thought the grass was greener on the other side when I didn't know how to water the grass on my own side.
Ooh, that's a good analogy.
I did not know how to do that. And I'm going to just give some names, and if they like I was in a relationship for a long time and it became stale, And I can distinctively I remember going to Easter service one year with my buddy Chris. We're going to church and I'm just crying on the whole way. And he'd tell me I was crying. I don't remember this, but I was just unhappy in this relationship, just unfulfilled. And I remember I was talking to my buddy Baca about the same thing. And he's like, you gotta leave. I didn't know how to leave because I felt like if I left, I would have been like my dad. My dad, every time my mom would attempt to find him and pay alimony and child support, he'd chase and leave and get a different job. He was never there. So I felt if I left an abandoned bad relationship, I was going to be exactly like my dad, which is unique and interesting. And now I teach people how to set up quality boundaries and how life's too short to live like that. And
to value yourself.
Yeah, I didn't know how to value myself through that process. I almost felt like I could have my cake and eat it too. And, I don't know, looking back full circle, our past doesn't define who we are. I think it makes us better because we have the opportunity every single day when we wake up to be better than we were the day before. With all of that, through all that process too, let me backtrack a little bit about that story. I think we need coaches and therapists and mentors in our life because I had a therapist that was exceptional through that traumatic event that I had, that dark moment when Darius had drowned. And I remember she would pull out stuff that I don't know how many of you listening, you ever got to the point where you just feel like you got this heavy load on you, right? This elephant is just sitting on you. And then when you get an opportunity to talk to somebody, it just feels gone. What's ironic is I use that same analogy because I just recently had a client that's going through a relationship crisis. I don't want to give too many details. However, she said the exact same thing. She's like, I feel like this elephant is on my chest. And when I get the opportunity to speak with you, it gets removed because there's so many strategies and techniques, y'all, that you can use and do. And you have to have the ability to know that you cannot get through life without a good quality mentor, life coach, therapist in your corner. And for me now, to some degree, it's you, you give me that opportunity and we share things. And it's really a blessing to have that. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay.
I love you.
Love you too.
How, you talked about this a little bit in feeling, well, maybe, I don't know that you use these words, so I don't want to use them, but how has failure played a role in your journey?
Mm-hmm.
And, well, first answer that.
Well, so let me explain my whole analogy about you either win or you learn. You can go the third option, which is lose. And then you're struggling in life, right? You're driving in the passenger seat. You see life through black and white lenses. You're not focused. You're not motivated. You're not excited about waking up. And then you constantly recreate that same, because when we fixate and we are around negative sources, we breed negativity. So failure for me, I don't learn it. All my past relationships that we can say I failed at, I learned from. I learned what not to do as a man, how to lead correctly, how to allow faith to live your life, to be open, to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to share your feelings with your significant other. So I see I've won through all of that because now what I've been able to collaborate with all of those past, if you want to use the word, I'll use that word, the word failures. I was able to use all those failures and put together this beautiful framework to help couples be more successful, to help individuals be more successful. And that was through experience. And if I would have had me during that course in time, I don't think I would have had these major failures. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure that you had to make a lot of sacrifices in your life to get to where you are now. So why don't you talk about some of those sacrifices that you had to make, and were they worth it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know some of them, and I know one of them was with your daughter.
Oh gosh.
So
well, let's chat a little bit about that. Yeah.
That's huge.
I would just say this: any single parents that are out there, fathers, I've been through the ringer, and Amber in the 2 years knows the kind of father that I am, and I don't need to highlight my accolades of being a single father. But I remember distinctively going through the divorce and not seeing my daughter.
I think it's important, though, that you share that you divorced when Nola was a newborn.
Yeah, she was like 2 months, 3 months old.
Yeah.
So Nola didn't really know any better. She didn't know anything. But the one thing that I wasn't able to have was custody of my own daughter.
Right.
I was paying attorney fees. I was paying alimony at that time, or child support of $800, because I couldn't see my daughter. And this went on. I remember working a measly summer school job and getting the entire paycheck and literally handing it to her in the driveway. And you know how you sign that check, you sign it over to her, because I was like, you want to talk about sacrifices? I filed bankruptcy because of that. I went in debt on credit cards because I came from a father that, let me backtrack. I knew when my daughter was born, I was always going to be in her life. At the age of 42, I had my daughter. And what is one of the most beautiful blessings that I've ever had. And I was going to do whatever it took. That's one thing that I teach my clients, is how to really dive into what your goals are, what you want. And one of the biggest things is if I'm going to have a daughter or I'm going to have a child, I'm going to be their father no matter what. I don't want to be the parent. So financially, I made some huge sacrifices. And the relationship now that I have with my daughter, even though the schedule's still not fair, I think is monumental. And I get why most fathers would be like, I'm done.
You know I'm only narrating this, but this is something I feel very passionately about. For those listening, Michael is a great father, but he isn't better than other fathers that are working and doing the best that they can for their children. He just continued to fight the fight, where others, I think, stop. Because there's so many roadblocks and so many challenges, and it's not fair that dads basically get told, sorry, kids are just going to spend more time with their moms, and this is how it's going to be. And as a divorced parent myself, I never want that. And I actually told my kid's dad that recently, and that really made him come around to a lot of things. He was like, wow, I've never heard you say that. And he felt really good about that.
Oh.
And it actually made him feel better about Michael too,
Yeah.
knowing that they have something in common in that they both want to be these very present, involved, or they are both very present, involved fathers. And so I think there's a lot to say about that sacrifice that you made.
Well, I think here's what I'll be real clear about. There's resilience, and then there's a term called anti-fragility. I think I have the ability through my experiences to teach my clients anti-fragility. The difference is resilience is be able to overcome one simple thing that happened in your life. Maybe it's not simple, maybe it's medium, maybe it's hard, however you want to describe it. However, I think the biggest thing is when you have numerous things that keep compounding and keep compounding. So many people, it's either fight or flight, and most of it's flight. I stood by on each of those sacrifices, each one of those accounts, and I fought. And I have the ability to give back and teach my clients that same thing.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. So, a couple more. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking back, is there something or a moment you would have done differently?
You know, we can never go back and change our past. We can definitely control our future. We have every opportunity to lose the 20 pounds that you want to for the New Year's, to get rid of that empty pit in your stomach that you've been struggling with, that new career that you want. Talk to a life coach, talk to a strategist that can help you become the best version of yourself. I think there's one thing, if you really want to talk about it and show the vulnerability that I
do.
I made a boatload of cash when I was younger, just through my modeling. I just wish I would have learned how to invest it better. So I'm not a financial advisor at any means, but I think I could have had so much money, well off. But I mean, my brand is building as we speak. I think that would be the biggest things that I would have changed, is just take 25% of what I was making on the side and just stick it into investments of some sort. So for those of you that are stumbling on this, do that if you got that opportunity.
Yeah.
Instead of buying BMWs. I remember this, I'll tell you this quick story here. My buddies, we got simple tickets to see Kenny Chesney. And I'm like, no, we're going in the front row. I bought him. I put my AMCA. I had American Express Black Card at the time. I put it down, and I was like, $2,000 later, we're in the front row seeing Kenny Chesney. Best time of our life. I had a great experience. I'll never forget that. We had such a fun time. But that's the life that I lived at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Financial literacy. And you know, when you come from a poverty, and I'm not the victim here, y'all. Let me just be real clear.
I don't think it's
I know, but let me explain this. My mom, even though she was on welfare, we had the free cheese, we got the free stuff. Everybody knows that story, right? I tell you what, I had the most toys imaginable. I was the best dressed kid on the report card. It would strictly say that. My mom would be proud of it. I was one of the best dressed kids. I would go to parent-teacher conferences, and the teacher, I remember distinctively the teacher saying that, your son's so well dressed. So I don't say all that because I want you to have this victim mentality for me. And that's the whole thing too. Get rid of the victim mentality, y'all. The victim mentality is what's going to hold you down forever, and you're never, ever going to grow. If you're constantly saying, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, it's them, it's Uncle Sam, it's because of this, it's because of whatever it is, Get rid of the victim mentality.
Well, honey, I also think that you often don't give yourself a lot of credit. So, going back your story, you had a lot of good mentors in your life
Amazing.
through sports and through teachers.
Yeah.
But when you talk about things like financial literacy, that typically comes from your parents when you grow up, right?
Yeah.
So your mom wasn't around and your mom passed away during this time when you're making all this money and not able to tell you and show you. I mean, I remember my parents' first job, Amber, half your paycheck has to go in the bank.
You shared that with me. That was amazing.
To do that. To my paychecks today.
Yeah, that's amazing.
These are things that you beat yourself up over, but obviously if you could go back and change something you would.
Yeah.
But also don't forget that you didn't have that.
I think our parents did the best that they could do with what they knew. Man, I can remember as a kid getting the shit knocked out of me because my mom, I think it was my 8th or 9th birthday. I got this really cool big wheel. It was one of those Incredible Hulk big wheels, and it wasn't like a steering wheel big wheel. It was one of those, if you're checking the visual here, it's like one of those gear things where you change it and you could like do this cool slide. And I remember the night before, my mom had this person over, and I remember her distinctly saying, "Oh yeah, you can smoke grass," and she must have been partying up till like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And I remember getting up because I was super excited because the night before it was my birthday and I got this big wheel. I was like, I want to just start fixing it. So I start fixing it, or I start putting it together. And this was like, it's early. It's probably 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was just excited, right? I was excited to put it together. And I remember I dropped something. And Mom hung over, didn't, I got beaten so bad that it was one of those, you know what I mean? And all because, and our parents, when they brought us up, and again, this is not a pity party for Michael Hicks, but it's just a product of who we become. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I have never, ever laid a hand on my daughter. And I remember this distinctively. She must have been 2 years old. And we were getting ready for the morning. I think I shared this story with you. And she did not want to put the clothes on that I had picked out for her. And it was bad. It was so bad that she was on the bed. And I was like, come here. And she went to the other side of the bed. I was so upset. So I stopped what I was doing because I could control my anger. I left and I went downstairs. And that time I lived in the condo. And below was the big garage. I just sat in my vehicle, probably for 10, 15 minutes just to calm down. I prayed. So God just sent me through it. I come back in the house. She's crying. And she comes and gives me a hug. I go, let's pick what you want. And we'll have a discussion at the end of the day. Excuse me. So I learned through negative reinforcement, I guess, if that's the right thing, of how to parent correctly. And yelling, parents, don't yell, talk quieter. If there's a disagreement, talk quieter. What? Talk quieter. Like really, like that has a more distinct, like they're really going to hone in and listen. So yeah, I don't know where I went with that. But
I think where you were going with it was that this is your story. This is your story on a deeper level. Yeah. And, which I mentioned how our parents teach us things.
Yeah.
But I think you're mentioning how even if our parents teach us things that are maybe not so good, it shapes us.
It does.
And teaches us maybe what we don't want to do.
100%. Yeah, well said.
That's where you were.
Way to summarize that up.
You're welcome. 2 more questions.
All right, let's get it.
All right. If you could describe the legacy you want to leave behind in one sentence, only one sentence, can't be longer.
Oh, it's easy.
What would it be?
To provide as much value to everyone and anyone that I encounter.
Oh, I think you do that. You guys have no idea, and I get embarrassed, and he'll tell you. I get embarrassed, and I think I'm getting more comfortable with it as I get used to it. But everywhere we go, Michael gives value to people. Even if they don't want it, he gives it.
Were we just somewhere and something happened?
Yes.
What was the yeah.
And I walked away, and he goes, "You got uncomfortable."
Oh yeah, yeah. So we're checking out. We're getting stuff for hosting a party tonight, and it's a holiday party with some friends, game night, and young high school kid, right? He's got a good heart. He's just making small talk, and I need to get to know you on a deeper level. And
even the cashier, he wants to know.
Even the cashier, right. Even the cashier. I think it's important, right? It's so important because everybody's so unique and so different in their own perspective. But he's like, "Hey, are you gonna watch the Packers today?" In their Yooper voice, and I hope I did that well. I don't let sports dictate my life. I don't. Do I like to watch it?
Yes.
Well, it's not like I'll be like, "Oh, is the game on?" Well, we'll be doing something, and I'll be like, "Oh, I think the game's on." I don't need to stop my day. I don't need to go. I did a whole podcast on fanatics, and I think to me, and I was in the professional sector as a professional basketball coach, and I played college basketball. I was All-American hooper, and 9 threes in one game. No lie, 9 threes, and
subtle brag.
It was. Let's see. Do I still got it? No, I don't. I stopped playing when I was about 42 because I could barely walk. I could barely walk, but I was still killing cats. Going back, know people deeper. If you're just like, "Hey, hello," that's all you're gonna get back. Ask them this one particular question. What's the highlight of your day today? Breaks at everything, right? People are like, oh. They're either not going to respond or they're going to respond.
Yep, that is true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some people really love it. Some people
don't. No.
But you're there for it all. Mm-hmm.
I love to provide value. And that is honestly one of the biggest things that I would love to. That's my legacy. If and when that day comes, I don't even know. Do I want to, maybe a gravestone? I don't know. But provided value to everybody that he met. Every morning, I get the opportunity when I go to the gym, I say good morning to as many people as I can. I want to be the first person to say that. Because when we project positivity, we get it back.
Yeah. People ask me, and I've told you this, especially my friends, people that may not see you regularly because you put content up, you're on social media. They're like, is he actually like that? Is he positive like that? Does he talk like that? Is that who Michael really is?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, that's him. You talk the talk.
Yeah.
And you walk the walk. And I think that's important that people know that this isn't just a gimmick that you're doing to make money or to say you have a business. You really believe this.
It's authentic.
Yes.
And my program works because I was the people. I was that person.
So in closing, then what's one message you want every listener or every person that experiences this to take away today?
Why are you putting off whatever your goal is? Insert goal Lose 20 pounds. Become the best version of yourself. Get that new career, that new job. Start living a life full of positivity, enthusiasm, love. Why are you waiting? Don't wait. Stop waiting. And I cannot tell you enough. If you feel, and you're a high achiever, number one, you have momentum, or I should say motivation. Momentum later kicks in. I'll explain that later. But if you have the motivation to want to be better, you can't do it alone. The most successful people have coaches. The most successful players in the NBA, NFL have coaches, not just one. LeBron James has a person that just takes care of his body. Full-time salary. He's playing in the NBA at a high level at 40 years old. Why? Because he has coaches and mentors around him. That's what I do. Through my life experiences, I'm willing to give back on what I've learned through relationships, to interpersonal communication, to becoming the best version of you. Stop overthinking, worrying. Those things are the highlight for your 2025. So as you are embracing this episode is going to drop in the new year. So what are your goals? And why do you have to have a goal on New Year's? Why don't you have a monthly goal? Short-term goals to build up to the big-term goals.
I'd highly recommend that.
Yeah, we've done that now for the last 3 months. We have 3 personal goals and 3 relationship goals. Like those, if you're not growing together, you're going to be the plant that goes apart. Grow together to create the change and the goals and the mindset and the manifestation and the law of attraction, all those things. Those things are real. If you're struggling, purpose, direction, body image, power goals, couple goals, reach out. I'm going to be taking 5 new clients here in the new year. I got some really cool things that are coming as well. And those will be some great opportunities for you to create the change that you want to become the best version of you want. Maybe you want that better job. Maybe you want a better relationship. Maybe you want to look better in the gym. Maybe you want to be able to hang out with your little ones and have more energy when you get home instead of going on the couch and putting a beer and putting your legs up. That's not average. That's actually below average. Become the best version of yourself. That's my message for all of my high achievers today. Thank you so much, Amber, for narrating this podcast. And I really hope that I provided some value for you today. And this is story part 2. All of my influencers and my coaches that are around me are telling me to portray my story once again. So you heard it here. This is story number 2. I think we got a little bit deeper on it.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I learned a little more.
You did?
I did. I mean, most of it I knew. I think it just, every time you share it and you provide more vulnerability and you highlight more of the ways that it's affected you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And shaped you.
It has. And that's why I have the proven formula to help people create the change they want.
Amen.
Amen. Until next time, my name is Michael Hicks, the host with the most, Framing New Heights. Always 1% better in mind, body, and soul. Stay flexed.